to the Fantasy Footballers Podcast with your hosts, Andy Holloway, Jason Moore, and Mike Wright.
What is going on, everybody? It is Tuesday, September 1st.
It's September!
And we are the Fantasy Footballers. Mike is jazzed.
I am ready!
That is the football excitement protruding from your mouth hole.
Yes,
welcome to the show. We've got another good episode of the Fantasy Footballers for you today. Thanks for tuning into the podcast. You can find us on iTunes, which might be how you're listening to us right now. I know a lot of you are. Make sure you click that subscribe button if you like what you hear.
And reviews, people. Reviews.
Oh, yeah.
Reviews really help the show out. We appreciate the Foot Clan and all the support you're giving us and the love of the iTunes reviews. We really, really appreciate that.
Yeah, it's been pretty awesome. This ride has been sweet, moving up the charts. People seem to like the show, so we keep showing up. Jason hasn't said a word yet, so maybe
I was
he's
wondering
not here.
how long I was just going to go silent.
You sound a lot better today.
A little better, yeah. I feel a little better. Watched
Is that
a lot
because
of football.
you're now allowed to shave your neck?
I'm not allowed to shave my neck.
Oh, that's related to the Ultimate Draft
Yeah, the
reviews,
Ultimate
not just
Draft
Fred
reports.
Jackson maybe
Right.
finding a home.
Yes. So, well, we'll see if he goes to the right location. Where's the rumor right now?
I'm hearing Seattle.
Yeah, Seattle is the rumor, and I think it makes perfect sense. He played with Marshawn Lynch in Buffalo. They are very close, and the running backs behind Lynch are not very good.
So let's travel. We got to travel the rabbit hole then.
Yep,
Fred Jackson goes in. Who's out?
Christian Michael,
Where does it go?
Buffalo.
We're just going to play musical running backs. I love it.
If he went to Buffalo, I would just laugh and laugh
I'd cry.
and laugh.
And if he goes to Dallas, the entire Twitter servers will shut down.
You think?
Yes.
There's that many people interested in Christian Michael still? I thought that was a 2-year ago thing.
I'm just saying the roars for Kristen Michael to Dallas were all off season long. So if it actually happened, there would be brain matter everywhere.
He would fit in perfectly with McFadden and Randall as just kind of like what you expect. You know, sometimes they're there, sometimes they're not. Who knows? But yes, Fred Jackson, a bit of news there. I've got a quick question for you guys today. If you want to follow the show, you can do so on Twitter at the FFBallers. Visit the website, thefantasyfootballers.com. Here's the quick question. How active should you be on the waivers early in the season? And I'm going to throw a caveat on there. Talk about it from the perspective of with a free agent budget and without.
True story. We drafted on Sunday, and I have already made 2 moves in that league. But
I have as well.
It was just through my final draft spot, and I don't know if you guys have even seen this. So originally I picked up Zenner because I was going to hold him and see what's going on with Joique Bell. Then I thought, you know what? I'm putting Jonas Gray on my bench.
That's not bad.
No, not bad
That's
at
not
all.
bad.
I like it.
I picked up Josh Scobie so that he can be on my bench until the third kicker in Pittsburgh can tear some sort of muscle.
Does he eat Scobie snacks?
I think to answer the
He
question,
does.
you should be active because after the draft, you see the mistakes that were made in the draft, either on your team or people that weren't drafted that should be. And if there's value to improve your team, go and make it. As far as the fab caveat, I don't think you need to spend money.
Zeros.
I would go zeros all the way just because normally you're alone or maybe there's 1 or 2 guys and you're going for different guys. I don't think you're going to need to outbid people until it's the week where you're actually everybody's looking for so-and-so.
Breaking news.
You released Fred Jackson.
I was wondering if that was going to hit.
I just pulled up the board for our league, and you released it.
We're breaking news from our internal
No,
leagues.
it is breaking news because this matters to people. They wanted to know. We'll talk about multiple Fred Jackson-related things that actually matter to the fantasy world. So one, the question is, if you had Fred Jackson, would you drop him because he could sign somewhere? Like he'll probably sign in Seattle. You think?
So I did the internal soul searching last night and thought, you know, if Fred Jackson were elsewhere, if he were in New England, if he were in Cleveland, if he were somewhere else, would I draft him? Would I draft him over these guys? Now, at that time when I made the claim, because it was yesterday,
James Starks.
At that time, I had not heard any rumors to Seattle.
Okay.
And so when I was looking at those, I just thought, no, you know, it's not worth it. And so I cut him, and I was trying to decide between Carlos Williams, who you picked up on Fab, to replace him, or James Starks, just because he looked really good.
He did
as
look
always
very good
in preseason, and I know he's
So,
more of a valuable.
If Marshawn Lynch, let's say he goes to Seattle, Fred Jackson's in Seattle, who's the more valuable handcuff? Is it if the top guy went down? Is it James Starks or is it Fred Jackson?
Well, if the top guy went down
That's
both cases,
isn't that the reason you own either of those guys now?
Then I would definitely go Starks without a doubt.
Wow.
I would agree.
Okay.
Just
because you think Fred Jackson probably wouldn't carry a full workload?
Correct. So they're
Okay.
going to use Turbin. They seem to like him. They think he's a reliable guy, and,
Yeah.
and he's okay.
Now, the last bit of Fred Jackson that we didn't really address yesterday because Jason's story was just too entertaining, and so I apologize for this. Who is the handcuff for LaShawn McCoy, everybody?
It's got to be Carlos.
Yeah,
Carlos Williams.
Rookie. Coming back. They like him. He's looked good. So Carlos Williams, the guy you want to own if you're a McCoy owner, which you should definitely own Carlos Williams.
He's been listening to Too Much Disturbed, though, because he's down with the sickness.
Yeah, well, he's going to get better. Fred Jackson's gone, so.
No? I thought that was a good one.
It's all right. Not really.
I'm sure some people like
See,
it.
it's a good one if people know that Carlos Williams was down with the sickness. It's bad if most people don't know that, which I don't know if everybody does.
Ooh,
Decent. All right,
Thank you.
let's get into the news.
News and notes from around the league.
Mike, most of the time you hit. Sometimes you miss. It's okay.
I've said it. They
Ever
can't all be
since
gems.
ever since the Marty McBride thing came out, I think you just are on a streak where you think you're invincible and you're not.
That is 100% accurate.
I expected his hate blocker glasses to come down over his eyes as he said that.
Yeah.
All right, out of we talked about it. Expected to sign Fred Jackson. That's the expectation right now.
And the
in
one
Seattle.
last thing with Fred Jackson is the Ravens were poking around at Fred Jackson. That would lead you to believe that they are not completely happy with Buck Allen right now.
They're
as
not
the backup.
comfortable. Yeah.
So look for the Ravens to add a backup while Lorenzo Taliaferro deals with his, I believe it was an MCL sprain.
All right, let's talk about two underwhelming running backs that have been one is waived, one might be waived. Trent Richardson, his career arc continues to I think it might be over. So the Raiders have waived Trent Richardson. This is expected. We've been talking about it for a couple weeks. And then Monte Ball looks like he may be in danger of losing his roster spot in Denver. This means Ronnie Hillman really is the guy you want to own other than C.J. Anderson. And honestly, I've hated Monte Ball for about 2 years. Not personally, just with my eyeballs looking at the screen, I just think he has nothing special about him. That's all I've ever said is I watch him play, and there's nothing unique or special he brings to the football field.
Yeah,
last year, I'm sorry, Monte.
A lot of people were burned last year by taking Hillman early or taking Ball early. But, Andy, to your credit, you definitely said he was just pedestrian, just average across
just
the board.
Just a dude. He'll play somewhere as a dude somewhere else, but he's just not that special.
I don't think he'll get cut. I mean, it's still a volatile position with injury concerns, and he might not be on the active roster on a weekly basis. Yeah. But I would be surprised if they cut him.
All right, we had a little bit of panic. Shudder through the studio out of Chiefs camp. There was some news that Travis Kelce, Zeus, went down with an ankle injury, but the reports are that he's fine. So don't worry.
The pray for Zeus, the hashtag I think was pretty close to trending on Twitter. If you were
That's
on
funny.
there, I was freaking out a little bit because the guy who broke it on Twitter, it basically said this: Travis Kelce leg injury, walked off under own power, have no idea how bad it is. Like, okay, well when you word it like that. After we saw what happened to Jordy.
I was going to say, that sounds exactly like the Jordy Nelson news.
Yeah, sounds like a knee.
Everybody is freaking out.
This is the time to be scared because a lot of drafts have now happened. So,
But we're hearing Ian Rappaport himself reported it was a rolled ankle, and Travis Kelce tweeted a meme of himself with a smile.
All right.
Very
well, that's
nice.
good. This is big news. If you've drafted Julius Thomas or are thinking about drafting him, it looks like surgery is going to happen for that hand. So instead of a week 1 expectation to get back on the field, week 4 is looking more like the target date. So if you own Julius, what do? Do you hold on to Julius?
You do not. I do
you
not.
You do not.
I do not if I don't have an IR spot. Now, if I can just move him to the injured reserve, then absolutely hold on to him. But for me, in my rankings prior to this, I had him as a middle of the pack. Actually, later, I think he's like 10 or something in my rankings. And so why would I hold a roster spot for a 10th ranked tight end, who's going to miss the first 4 weeks, and he was 10th ranked with 16. So
go ahead.
Here's what the Julius Thomas news does. Now, instead of the instant gratification of being disappointed, you can wait 4 weeks
And be
disappointed.
If both guys came back in week 5, Antonio Gates or Julius Thomas?
Gates.
yeah, for sure.
Okay.
I expect him
that's
to
a
be
good question for people.
And Gates is for sure. Gates will come back week 5 because it's only a 4-game suspension.
Here's a trick, or not a trick question. I'm just curious if you know. This is a regular question. What did Antonio Gates finish last year at the tight end position?
Number 2.
Deuce.
Number 2.
Number 2 on the
Not been talked about enough, and he's played just like last year in the preseason. He's just missing those 4 games. So, last bit of news here. Joik Bell.
I was waiting for the streamers and the choir.
As expected, Joik is activated from the PUP list. There's also
as expected.
Yeah, of course.
You expected it 4 weeks ago.
Yeah, I was going to say as expected months ago. Is like
I never said such a thing.
Oh, yeah, but the Lions did. And
well, the Lions also, one of their beat writers came out and just confirmed what we all know, that Joik Bell's the starter. So, on track to laugh in your faces soon enough. And out of Colts camp, T.Y. Hilton was dealing with a concussion protocol. The reports early this morning are that he should be cleared. And that's good news in advance of week 4, which I'm sure he won't play in week 4, but he'll be ready for the season.
Yes.
Does that sound good for the news?
Yeah, that sounds good to me.
Well, just like this podcast, everybody, you can get pretty much everything on demand nowadays. You can listen whenever you want to this podcast. And so why in the world, when you are mailing things, would you want to go to the post office every 2 seconds? You don't need to anymore with Stamps.com.
No, absolutely not. Absolutely anything that you can do at the post office, you can do right now from your own desk. Because with Stamps.com, you can actually buy and print official U.S. postage for any letter or package using your own computer and printer. You don't have to go and visit the post office, which is closed or which is locked down. So unlike the post office, Stamps.com, it never closes. You can do postage whenever you want, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
And we know this firsthand because we send out a lot of the Foot Clan decals and merchandise like that. And if I had to run out and go to the post office every single day, it would be the most annoying thing in the world. But I don't have to with Stamps.com. We send out those decals. You can print it right on your printer. You can put labels in there and print it on the labels, print it on the envelopes. Takes 2 seconds. And we got a special offer for you.
So right now, you go over to Stamps.com, you use the promo code FOOTBALLERS. The promo code is FOOTBALLERS. You get a special offer, 4-week trial. And then you get a bonus, $110 bonus offer. Includes a digital scale and up to $55 of free postage. Don't wait. Go to Stamps.com. Before you do anything else, click on the microphone at the top of the homepage. Type in FOOTBALLERS. Stamps.com, promo code FOOTBALLERS.
Boom.
So, listeners, I want to tell you guys about the best new way to find an amazing deal on football tickets. You know it. It's called the SeatGeek app.
That's right. The people heard us talking about this last time, and I got a tweet from a listener who said, "Hey, what was the name of that ticket app?" And I said, "It's the SeatGeek app." They tweeted back, "Oh, that's fantastic! They got the free $20 that we're going to talk about. They got some football tickets to their alumni, and they got great seats.
Their alma mater." That's the word you want.
Yeah,
to use.
alma mater. Yeah, you're right.
Alumni game.
No, it is an awesome app, and right now our listeners can use the promo code FOOTBALLERS. In the SeatGeek app, you get $20 rebate off of your first SeatGeek purchase. Go in there. It's the best way to buy tickets. It's seriously a very cool app.
Yeah, there's a lot of unique things in there. So to redeem your promo code and save $20 on tickets, here's what you do. Download the free SeatGeek app today. Enter the promo code FOOTBALLERS in the app. And SeatGeek will then send you $20 once you've made your first SeatGeek purchase. So enjoy going to the games. Go to the games in style on the Footballers.
Yep. Grab your free SeatGeek app today. Use that Footballers promo code, and you'll save some money. So let's go ahead and talk about the rest of the games from preseason
and
week
now,
3.
The rest of the story.
I know.
Very nice.
That's pretty good.
Thank you.
I love it. That's you're going to get sued, though. But no, all
sonar.
right. Yeah, where did that come from?
Don't worry about it. Press on.
Random sound. All right, let's talk Philly and Green Bay. This was one heck of a game. This is the game that involved the shoulder injury to Randall Cobb that sent Twitter fears all over the place.
Twitter is not a place you want to be if you're emotionally unstable.
No.
I will tell you that.
It is also a place where you will find people that are emotionally unstable. So this game was ultimately a coming out party for the Sam Bradford-led Philadelphia Eagles.
My goodness.
He had as good of a preseason game anybody could have. 10 for 10, 3 touchdowns. He really, when I watched this game, I was impressed by the fact he stood in the pocket. He took a couple big hits, and, man, accuracy-wise, he was on the money. Everything from a touch throw to Darren Sproles in the corner of the end zone to leading his receivers left to right across the field. And DeMarco Murray was involved a lot, too. So what were some impressions you got of that Philadelphia offense beyond that? Or is that
every time they went to run the ball, it looked different than most of the other teams in the league this year. It didn't seem like the same type of schemes where guys were running into a pile or trying to get around him. There was just real open room everywhere on the field because they spread it out so much. DeMarco Murray was used a lot in the beginning. I mean, that drive, he was catching passes, he was running the ball, and every time he was getting 5 yards. So Murray, to me, is a guy that, I said this, I think, after last week, but I really do want this backfield. I want Murray and I want Matthews. Matthews still came in the red zone again and was used. And, heck, throw in Darren Sproles because he looked pretty good too.
And then switching over to Green Bay, Ty Montgomery, man, he looked pretty decent. He took and it wasn't even Aaron Rodgers in the game, and there was a quick slant or in route, I can't remember, and he very, very short, and he cut it up the field, and he got very, very close to breaking it all the way, and he looked very sharp.
There's a huge debate between Ty Montgomery or Jeff Janis, and there are people out there that are 100% screaming at people that it has to be Jeff Janis, that he is the guy, and you're a fool if you think that it's anyone else, including even Devontae Adams. They think that Jeff Janis is going to actually be the one in that role. And while we don't know the future, I want my name on record, in agreement with you, Mike, assuming that Ty Montgomery is 100% the third guy that you want there. And Jeff Janis, I just don't think is going to be a big
I'm going to set this up because I know the tweets and the Photoshops are coming. Jeff Janis is a big streaker. That's what he does. He's on the out. He runs the 9, and he's very tall, and he can catch touchdowns here and there. But Ty Montgomery is the guy you want on the field more often.
And in fantasy, you're talking about just having a practical, week-to-week, better performance from Ty Montgomery.
Correct.
Which I kind of agree with. He was, like I've said, he's a standout in college. He's a third-round pick. I was thinking about this yesterday. If I'm Ty Montgomery, and I'm sitting in the draft room, and the situation ends up being where I get drafted by the Packers, who have Aaron Rodgers, in the third round, and then Jordy Nelson goes down in front of me. So year one, I get to, just incredible, because you could be in a million different situations. He could be running 8 routes for the Browns right now, but instead he's got Aaron Rodgers as his quarterback and an opportunity to make an impact in week one.
And it is still, I was going to say week one, it is still possible Randall Cobb with that shoulder could miss week one. It doesn't look like that, but it's possible. And if that happens, Ty Montgomery is a great start.
All right, let's talk a little bit about the Indianapolis-St. Louis game. I saw Andrew Luck get picked in this game.
Yep.
And we didn't see very much of Frank Gore.
Did he play at all? I thought
Did he take any?
Not that I saw.
See, I told you, not very much.
We did not see much of Frank Gore.
I didn't see him at all.
I didn't see much of Adrian Peterson either.
No. So Boom Herron was in there.
And Boom Herron looked good.
He's the number 2 guy.
Yes, he's the cuff right now.
Josh Robinson behind him.
There's talk of Robinson, but right now it's Boom Herron, and he looked good. And this is St. Louis is supposed to be a monster defense, especially up front, and there was holes and things opening up that Herron got to use, and Herron's a great pass catching back. So I think he's a good guy to stash if you're the Gore. Let's say you're the Gore owner, and you aren't you're a little bit worried about the mileage, the age, whatever. Just hold on to Boom Herron, and I think you have a good opportunity there.
And Mike, you made a note of saying Trey Mason looked really good. Now he has the hamstring injury, so
yeah, he looked very good before the hamstring injury.
Then he's out. You know what I saw that I thought was really good news for the Rams, because one of the notes I wrote down was yucky offense. So that's not the good news. But they were running their sets. So I don't remember like a team that ran this many 2 wide receiver sets. I felt like every play there were just 2 wide receivers on the field, or it was just not a good-looking offense, but they were dedicated to running the ball. And so for Todd Gurley owners, long term, I mean, that's looking really good. They want to define themselves as a running team, and Todd Gurley, especially with Trey Mason out, it's going to force his recovery along a little bit quicker. So,
all right, let's go talk about Captain Kirk. Washington and Baltimore, that preseason game. We now know that Kirk Cousins will start the year as the starting quarterback for the Washington Redskins. So if you had to own a Redskins wide receiver, I assume it's Deshaun Jackson.
Correct.
Ahead of Pierre Garçon?
Yeah, it's Deshaun Jackson. And the funniest thing to me about Captain Kirk is I could take just one game, right? And if through careful editing, you can make there's Captain Kirk. You can make Captain Kirk look like the absolute worst NFL quarterback of all time, or you could chop it up and make him look like one of the best quarterbacks
every single game.
You have, from play to play, you have no idea what he's going to do.
I got to be honest with you. I think that the Redskins' offense is a mess, and it's too. I think this was the right move to make, but they just don't look that good. And to be quite honest, and I don't want to overreact from preseason, but I really did not like the look of Alf. And I wanted to look up his splits with or without RG3 because I believe from memory that he was a much better running back.
You are correct.
When RG3 was on the field. So we'll try to look that up during this show. But it's just a worry to me with RG3 off, with Alfred Morris, looking a little slower. Maybe this is bad news for Morris. So I'm gonna effort that right now.
I'm moving Steve Smith up. I've held him down for too long, and
I couldn't believe you didn't draft him in our draft on Sunday.
He's just held down.
When you were looking for a wide receiver.
He's held down too much, and because I've just have this feeling that he's going to do the same thing where he'll break down. I guess he
probably will, but you can ride him.
You could ride that hot start, but so I'm moving him up. He's going to be highly targeted, and he's still got some juice left.
I will say this about Washington. The Dolphins are probably the best defense to own right now to start the season. They have like 6 good matchups to start the year, and they start this season against Washington, and we just talked about that offense. So, all right, let's move over to Chicago and Cincinnati, the enigmatic Cincinnati Bengals.
Yeah, they were a little more down to earth this time. A lot of Jeremy Hill, and Jeremy Hill getting in on third downs, which is
very little Geo between the tackles.
Yes, but so Jeremy Hill on third downs, like to see. Geo's still going to get some snaps. I'm not.
He should.
I've never said that Jeremy Hill will take 90% of the share. I just think that he will take more of the third downs, and that seems to be what they're showing in the preseason, which is why I love Hill so much. If you saw him on the end zone, or they got to the 5-yard line and they pounded it 3 times. He didn't get it. Well, he got in, but the review was.
Didn't Dalton ended up.
Because the review was Bush League. He got in, but they called it back, and then they called it sneak. But the good news was they ran it 3 straight times from the 5.
What are you guys' thoughts on Martellus Bennett now that we have some injury to – I mean, Jeffrey should be back week 1. We don't know for sure. We like Eddie Royal a little bit, but do you guys have your thoughts changed at all about Martellus Bennett?
Martellus Bennett to me is like a poor man's Greg Olsen to start the year. If Alshon Jeffrey's out, it's kind of like the loss of Kelvin Benjamin, where you just have to target somebody, and he's the biggest, only good target left. I mean, Eddie Royal's still there, but you lost Brandon Marshall. If Alshon Jeffrey's out, also Martellus Bennett has a history of starting the year strong. I mean, every year he starts with great couple of games and then kind of tails off. So if you're looking for an early guy, I like Martellus Bennett a lot. I think he's going to get a lot of targets.
And I will say we expect Jeffrey to be back, but I think that's true. I mean, Bennett had a kind of coming out party last year under Trestman, and so the concern has been that he'll regress back to kind of his normal numbers, which doesn't make him a high draft pick by any means. So, all right, let's move over to Minnesota and Dallas. We continue to see – this is the 4th time we've seen Teddy Bridgewater look kind of steady Teddy is the phrase I've been hearing.
Steady Teddy.
Yeah.
Wait, I just want to go back and point out one thing.
It's too late.
Oh, all right. Never mind. Let's go on. No, the one thing I want to point out, because we've, as a group, been down on him, but Matt Forte looked like he was running just fine. He looked spry and healthy, and so I'm just throwing that out there from a standpoint of don't be too scared off from what we've said about the potential to fall off, because he looked.
Well, what we've said is he's a low end RB1.
Yeah.
We don't think he's a top 5 pick.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
And what I saw of him, I completely have not changed my opinion.
Yeah,
really?
I agree with you. And the 2 previous preseason games add to that. I would just say you got to take it as a whole. I mean, he might have looked good that game, but he still stays. I mean, he's still a top 12 guy for all of us.
Yeah,
it's just a matter of the offense isn't going to dump him the ball as much, I don't think.
Correct.
But to Jason's point, if Jeffrey's out and time is missed, he'll be somebody who catches the ball more. So let's talk about Minnesota-Dallas a little bit more. Steady Teddy throwing the ball, threw a great deep ball down the sideline to Mike Wallace, who was very involved.
That throw was right on the money. There was no margin for error on the sideline throw. It was fantastic.
Yeah, he was. So Teddy Bridgewater, you drafted him on Sunday as your quarterback.
I took him as my quarterback.
Give me touchdown numbers for Teddy Bridgewater, because that's the concern for me, is that I just don't know how high they can get.
I think he can get in the high 20s.
Okay.
And possibly low 30s. I think the offense is going to really take off. He didn't play a full year.
He's my number one quarterback that wears gloves.
Yes, that because Kurt Warner doesn't play anymore.
Kurt Warner doesn't play anymore.
But the offense, you could see it ascending last year. Tossed in a Hall of Fame running back, it just gets even better.
It should be very, very good. And their head coach is known to bring the best out of the defensive unit. And so this is a team that I really think, if you were in Vegas I'd take the over on their win total, because I think it's at 7.5 right now.
Yeah, I think
I would take the over. Let's talk about Cleveland and Tampa.
Did you see
but just for a minute.
Did you see McCown get blown up?
I didn't see that play.
My goodness.
So
Jason's back.
He got – I mean, it just shows you there's cement in his head already, because there's no way you he got blown up.
He pulled the he had booted out of the pocket, and he's playing the chicken game with the linebacker of, am I going to run it or am I going to throw it? The linebacker put everything on run and blew him up nasty.
You know what it reminded me of? I started playing Madden. When you
the hit stick.
when you're looking downfield and you don't even see that there's a pass, I'm telling you, he had no idea that guy was there. His eyes, credit to him, were downfield, but no peripheral vision, because he got smashed straight on.
So back to fantasy. McCown, 17 of 23, 2 touchdowns.
Yep.
McCown is an okay quarterback. He's not great. He's not what he was at the Chicago Bears, where he was just every pass he threw was a touchdown. But I think that he's an okay guy. The weapons there aren't going to lead to a high-powered offense, but this is why I like Dwayne Bowe as a later round flyer guy.
And I would take Hartline in a second over Dwayne Bowe.
Do you want to have the grossest, unsexiest waterbed of all time?
So is it Hartline Bowe?
Hartline versus Bowe.
All right, let's do it.
Wow. Waterbed.
That's a vomit bet.
Wow. I would get on Andy's side, but I'm just too grossed out by participation.
That's my favorite bet, because I hope I win with 18 catches for 384 yards, and that would be really good yards per catch.
Bowe still has to get the chemistry going with McCown, but it's there's some value there, right? Right?
That's my favorite bet. I hope that one you don't get watered, you get sludged or something. You throw something nasty on yourself. All right, so let's talk about Tampa for a second before we move on. Not as smooth of a game for Winston.
It's
pretty much the preseason is what you're going to see all year.
The news
up, down, all around.
The news was that he's playing on a sprained ankle.
Well, great. You know what? If you're out on the field,
I'm just saying.
So why is he playing on a sprained ankle in preseason?
Yeah, because he needs reps, and he's Jameis Winston, and he's a stud.
See, I don't know how to handle these rookie quarterbacks. I appreciate the help.
You're welcome.
Is it so? Evans, Vincent Jackson, Doug Martin. Doug Martin's looked fine. He's looked really good. He had kind of a hot and cold game where he was getting stuffed at the line, and then he broke off some big runs.
Is he in the second round yet of ADP?
I hope not.
Gross.
He lasted a very, very long time in our draft.
As he should.
He's still a value.
So they will speak to the Doug Martin enigma again. People, maybe he's back but we have 3 preseason games of him looking okay, and we have 2 years of him looking bad. So do not reach on Doug Martin in the 4th round. I don't think you're going to be happy with your return. If he's in the 5th round, okay, maybe I'll start thinking about it.
What if he's go ahead.
His ceiling is not what we hoped it was after his rookie campaign, because their offensive line is really bad. And you spoke to it already. He was hot and cold that game, right? I was writing down notes about how Martin didn't look good all game. And then he busted off that 19-yard touchdown run, and it was like, oh, his yards per carry went up. But the rest of the game, every time they snapped the ball, the offensive line was a real problem there. And so what's his ceiling?
Let me ask you this. This is an important question, okay? Because a lot of people are going to go wide receiver to start a draft. And they're going to be staring down running backs to fill out that starting running back core in the 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th round. If you are one of those teams, and let's say you went first 2 rounds, you got wide receivers, would you rather have Doug Martin or Amir Abdullah?
Abdullah. Even
with the unknowns as to workload. Because Martin will have a workload. That's the question. That's why I'm throwing it out there is you have to have a RB1 or an RB2. You're still rolling out Abdullah over Doug Martin.
Ceiling to me. Upside of
Abdullah.
Abdullah.
But I mean, you can't only pay attention to upside, right?
No, but when you've punted a bit on your running backs, you want upside.
See, I think that's a competing philosophy, because I might, if I've punted on running backs, I want a guy I know is going to get the rock versus taking a David Johnson or somebody like that who I don't know their performance. Like, I'd rather roll Ivory and Martin out there every week with my top tier wide receivers than I would Abdullah and Woodhead.
When you're punting on running back, you're taking these backup type guys who you're anticipating the opportunity will come for one of them to turn into a lead back. That's kind of what the overall strategy is. Up in Detroit, that's not a bad bet to take. With Joique Bell just coming off of PUP, he has to get back in game shape in a week, and
don't worry about it.
His chance for re-injuring while he's training is completely existent. It could happen, and that's more likely to happen than for Doug Martin to return to running back 1 for him.
The guy that came to mind while you were saying this was Chris Ivory, just because he's going behind both of those guys. He's got an offensive line that is good, and so I think
a team that will run.
Yeah, and so I see what you're saying, Andy, and I think that you do need, if you don't have any running backs yet, you have to get a guy that you know is playing starting.
I think really what we got out of that, and I'm glad we discussed it, because people face that all the time. And we get all these draft reports where I can see people face it all the time. They stared that decision down, and they're running out Doug Martin or they're running out an upside guy. And I think it's kind of about what kind of owner you are.
Right.
Are you risk averse? Do you want solid production? I mean, it's standard PPR matters to me too in those situations.
Yeah, I agree.
Right now, I just looked this up, and Doug Martin is going ahead of Amir Abdullah, Arian Foster, Jonathan Stewart, and Chris Ivory. And personally, I would take all of those guys.
Did you say he's going ahead of Jonathan Stewart?
Yes.
Yeah, we talked about.
That's a talk show host, though, not the running back. That would be silly.
Yeah, because
we talked about this last week.
I know.
And it's crazy.
Sometimes when crazy things happen, you think they're dreams, and you don't remember that you actually discussed them in real life.
So since we've already tangented, let me go back to, because I had looked up.
Oh, did you look the splits up?
Yes, the splits up on Alfred Morris. So
can you do the splits?
Alfred Morris is super flexible.
You haven't seen him? He's like Van Damme on the semis.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that was nice. So he's had 37 games with RG3 and 11 without. So a good enough sample size, I think, to look. And so he's dropped over 2 fantasy points per game without RG3. And the thing is how that breaks down, same amount of carries, but he gets 20 less yards per game in 11 contests. So I do think that
you're saying with Cousins,
without RG3, because you don't have the same type of read option that kind of freezes that defense.
I'm glad you brought us back to it, because it's important for people to know. And every time these changes happen, Tyrod Taylor in Buffalo, Fred Jackson moving to Seattle, all these little changes impact players. And so for Cousins coming in, people want to know, is it good or bad for Morris?
Yeah,
and at least historically, it's been bad.
He's still going to be a starting running back and good and have value. I mean, we're not saying don't steer clear, but
Jonathan Stewart, Alfred Morris.
Stewart.
Jonathan Stewart, Alfred Morris or Doug Martin.
Alfred Morris.
Okay, that's what I assume, but just making sure. All right, let's go ahead and talk about one last game here before we answer a couple of mailbag questions. Atlanta, Miami. Anything stand out to you from that game?
Jarvis Landry.
Dude,
my goodness.
Dude, I mean, he's just the guy.
We've been talking about him all off season.
Tannehill looks great.
Oh, Jarvis Landry is going to get, he might be
115 catches.
Well, I'm saying he might have to be like the target monster part B.
He's going to get more catches than Allen Robinson. I'd bet you that 5,000 times.
Well, it's very possible. I'm not going to. I'm not going to deny that.
You know who stuck out to me was Lamar Miller. I mean, his usage. He was on the field every play. They threw him the ball a ton. They ran it to him. They trusted him, and they're going to use him. And so I was already trying to trade for Lamar Miller.
Just so you're aware, this is very important. Tevin Coleman looked terrible.
The O-line looked
I know.
atrocious.
I'm just pointing out Coleman because I'm a Devontae Freeman guy.
How did Freeman look?
Well, he was resting up for week 1 like those starting running backs do.
Yeah, like Joik,
Arian, Adrian Peterson, Arian Foster.
Yeah,
Arian Foster's resting up.
Joik Bell, and Devonta Freeman.
All right, we don't got a lot of time, but let's get into the mailbag a little bit.
Mailbag.
Oh, I was hoping for a Joik Bell.
No.
All right. If you have a question, you go to the website, click the Submit a Question button. We try to answer a few on every show. You can also leave us a voicemail question, 302-464-TFFB. So we're going to start today's mailbag. We just got a little dip into the mailbag.
This is a mailbag.
A mailbag.
Mail satchel.
All right. Let's go ahead and listen to this one here.
Hey, this is Zach from Des Moines. I just wanted to thank you guys for exposing Fred Jackson because now he's going to go to Seattle and injure Marshawn Lynch. So thanks for ruining my fantasy season, guys. But anyways, I was wondering, when is it too early to draft a receiver and a 3-wide receiver in the flex league? It's also PPR. So thanks, guys.
We haven't even mentioned the dangerous situation that Marshawn Lynch is in.
No, I sent an email out to his people just to say watch out.
Yeah, the fantasy reaper knows.
If anybody's immune from the depth chart assassin, it's Marshawn Lynch. He's just
too
good.
Too beastly.
But to answer your question, it's never too early to draft a wide receiver in a league that has 3 wide receivers in a flex. It changes the position scarcity argument that we make for running backs instantly when you have doubled the amount or at least an additional wide receiver to start.
Wasn't Beast Mode injured when he was in Buffalo with Fred
Yes.
Jackson?
Oh my
Incredible.
Oh my goodness.
Because Fred Jackson poisons people.
No, we gotta stop. I love Fred Jackson.
No, this is just, what if it's less intentional and it's more accidental? What if he's the guy who, he has his meal and he accidentally leaves the knife out at the end of the table? It's just accidental stuff. Fred Jackson's a happy man.
If Fred Jackson offers you some supplements
or
tea, you don't take them. They're going to break down your body.
If he asks you to try out a new workout routine, please avoid it.
If he invites you over for dinner, say you have plans.
It's like Wile E. Coyote. He's like, hey, can you stand on that X real quick and hold these flowers that are sparkling like dynamite?
Depth chart assassin. I want to bet that Marshawn Lynch talked to management and said, look, bring this guy in here. That's what I assume.
So back to the question. No problem. First, in a 3-wide with a flex, PPR, I'll take Antonio Brown in the first round. Absolutely.
Oh, yeah. So you agree, Jason?
Yeah, 100%.
All right, Juice from Milwaukee said, I have a feeling about Stevie Johnson. I like the guy. Do I drop Marcus Colston for him? I don't like how up in the air the receiver situation is in New Orleans. That is a very good question.
Is this Juice from the movie Blank Check?
Oh my goodness! I remember that movie. That was
finally
that was one of the best movies as a kid because you just kept pretending it was you.
Yeah,
dreaming you get the blank check.
Oh,
it was like Rookie of the Year.
I just don't understand. I never understood how he actually got the money. He showed up and they gave him the money at the bank, and
because of Juice.
Wow, I don't remember character names, Mike.
So Juice, I would say no. That's a great. I mean, when you're talking about Marcus Colston and Stevie Johnson.
I'm sticking with Colston for now.
I would go Stevie Johnson personally. But the point here is that these two guys are really. I mean, we can analyze and overanalyze all you want, but these two guys, it comes down to a gut feeling. And if you have a gut feeling on Stevie Johnson, then do it, because otherwise you're going to be upset.
And I've actually fielded this exact question quite a few times. And I'd give the same answer. You really need to go with your gut. I would lean at this point. I would lean Stevie because I think his career is still at the uptick of his career, while Colston I think is going down, and we've seen that with Coleman replacing him with first string offense. Too wide, they're putting Coleman in and not Colston. So I think they're very, very close, though.
As funny as it is, I think in a standard league, I stay Colston, and in a PPR, I probably go Stevie Johnson.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So that's all the time we have for the mailbag today. But do not fear if you've submitted a question. We have a special guest on tomorrow's show. Christopher Harris from the Harris Football Podcast will be on the show.
Coming back,
and I'm going to ask him about a lot of these situations, the Falcons running backs, the Redskins wide receivers, the Browns running backs, all of these head-to-head kind of matchups. Who's he leaning on right now? I'm going to ask those questions, but we're going to spend a lot of time in the mailbag answering questions from you guys. So make sure you tune in tomorrow. Visit us on YouTube. Check us out on Twitter at the FF Ballers. And if you're interested in kind of joining in with what we're doing here, check out jointhefoot.com. Any other thoughts, guys?
Juice! Goodbye.
Thank you for listening to another edition of the Fantasy Footballers Podcast. Don't forget to visit us on the web at www.thefantasyfootballers.com and follow us on Twitter at the FF Ballers.